What's up, YouTube? This is Carrie from Side Tripping with Carrie, and it's been more than a minute. Today we're standing out in front of Kare Ethiopian restaurant here in East Phoenix, specifically off of 48th Street and McDowell Road. And this is the former site of Andy Grand's Bowery. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Andy Grand, who was a local, I guess you want to call him, Phoenix celebrity in the 60s and 50s. Well, actually 50s and late 60s until his untimely death in 1972. His true name was Angelo Grandinetti. We're going to visit his final resting place here at St. Francis Catholic Cemetery, which, believe it or not, is really almost walking distance from where we are right now. So here we are at Kare Ethiopian restaurant. I'm not quite sure how Kare is pronounced. I don't know if it's Kare or Care or Carrie, as far as I know. I do know that the restaurant was voted just this past year the best East African restaurant in Phoenix. So it's definitely a place I want to check out, because I've actually had Ethiopian food before. It's really good, and so I'm gonna have to get Mrs. Side Tripping with Carrie out here and have dinner here one night. So without further ado, let's head over to St. Francis and check out the final resting place of Andy Grand. Okay, we are at St. Francis Catholic Cemetery, about to visit the grave of Angelo Grandinetti, better known as Andy Grand. So Andy, I'll just call him Andy. Andy was kind of this local music celebrity, if you will. He was an aficionado of what the newspapers called good music. So that definition is roughly what I would say would be the kind of like the crooners of the 40s and 50s. People like Nat King Cole, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Louis Prima, people like that. And he was a big aficionado also of jazz music. And he had two clubs. He had Andy Grand's Bowery, which I just showed you, which is now the Ethiopian restaurant. And he had another place called Andy Grand's Patio, which was on the same street, McDowell Road, East McDowell Road, but it was off of 20th Street. Now I tried to go there and find that location, but it is actually, I think it was bulldozed or paved over to make way for a freeway that's there now. So that location is pretty much gone. But Andy, he billed himself as the funniest buffoon in any saloon. That was kind of his tagline. He would advertise that in these newspaper ads from back in the day, you know, back in the late 60s primarily. Now, something I didn't know, so he was born in New Jersey in 1912, and Frank Sinatra is also from New Jersey and was born about 3 years later. He was born in 1915, and these guys knew each other. And actually, to the extent of, and this is something that I found out that I did not know, Frank Sinatra's son, Frank Sinatra, who's billed out as Frank Sinatra Jr., actually went to Arizona State, which I did not know. And when he was going to ASU, this would have been in the early to mid 60s, Andy would book him at his clubs to sing. So I thought that was interesting. I never knew that Frank Sinatra Jr. went to ASU. So, and like I said, Andy kind of fashioned himself as this, nightclub owner, gregarious dude. Seemed like he was very well liked. And he kind of fancied himself a comedian, and so he was known. I remember, I was just a kid when he passed away in 1972, but I vaguely remember the ads that would be in the paper, because they were kind of goofy. I'll show you guys pictures of them. It had like his face, and he had like this stupid expression on his face, or actually it wasn't stupid, but it just looked funny. And I remember, just like in the recesses of my mind, I remembered that from being a kid. But he is buried here at St. Francis, and buried here with his wife Marie and his daughter Julia. And Andy had a son, Andy Jr., if you will, who's also buried here. He's in a different section of the cemetery, but he was also seemed like a very well-liked man as well, and was a talented drummer. And Andy Sr. would have him play at the club sometimes, even as a kid or a young adult. So anyway, this is just kind of an interesting fellow that I never knew. I really didn't know growing up here in Phoenix, other than, like I said, just in the recesses of my mind, the memory of those ads in the newspaper. My parents were the type of folks, they didn't go out much as far as like going to nightclubs and things like that. They would go, I remember as a kid, my brother and I would go with them to visit their friends to play cards, and usually their friends had kids around our age, and so we would hang out with those kids and listen to music or watch TV or go hang out in the neighborhoods or whatnot. And so my parents, I would doubt very seriously if I could talk to either one of them today. I'm sure neither one of them ever went to Andy Grand's Bowery. But in any event, the guy really did seem kind of ahead of his time, though. He, like I said, he was really into jazz. He would book acts that probably you wouldn't say would be as popular then as they are now, or acceptable. He had drag shows, or what do you call them? Well, back then they called them female impersonators. So he would do that. He was also not shy about booking African-American talent, in those days. I mean, Phoenix was a lot more progressive than a lot of places, but there was still a bit of prejudice and things of that nature here. But Andy didn't care. If you were talented enough and were a good enough performer, he didn't have a problem booking you. So that's going to wrap it up, folks. Again, just kind of an interesting character that I ran across here at St. Francis. And I promise, I know I've said this before, but I promise that I'll get some more content out there. And I apologize for the long delay, but believe me when I tell you, boy, this past summer was brutal. And so was the fall, for that matter. But it's winter time now. The weather is nice and mild, so look for some more content. If you like today's content and you're not a subscriber already, please subscribe. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. And we will see you on the next one, okay?